A sense of alarm is building among officials at the Justice Department and the FBI, who are bracing for possible revenge prosecutions from the incoming Trump administration. NBC News reports that some civil servants who work on a government salary have proactively reached out to lawyers. That's according to 3 people with knowledge of their deliberations. They're worried about the effect of long and costly legal battles. Joining me here in studio, NBC News senior executive editor for national security, David Rode, who reported this story. Also with us, Glenn Kirshner, a former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. It's good to have you here, David. A lot of DOJ staffers we had been hearing and you had been reporting were saying there was some nervousness about what might happen, about, frankly, what has been said about the plans for going after people who they felt unfairly went after them. But how has the choice of Matt Gaetz changed the equation, or has it?
It has, and that's the difference. There was worry about congressional investigations. They expected that. But the choice of Gaetz, which was, I think, a real surprise to many people inside the DOJ, signaled everywhere, yes, that he's a lawyer, but he's had no experience prosecuting cases. But most of all, he is a firebrand loyalist, a very vocal supporter of President Trump. And it's seen by people as a choice. It's someone who Trump trusts, and someone who, given the ethics investigation, sort of owes Trump. Trump is sort of protecting him by giving him this new job just before the ethics report comes out. So it has raised fears that there could actually be criminal investigations and prosecutions by the Trump administration of career DOJ and FBI officials.
Fear and terror are haunting Justice Department officials as their own lawyers are actually recommending they flee the country before Trump's inauguration. You're not going to believe your own ears. We've got the latest. And then
some of these Democratic governors say they're going to stand in the way. They're going to make it hard for us. Well, a suggestion: if you're not going to help us, get the hell out of the way, but we're going to do it. So if we can't get assistance from New York City, and we may have to double the number of agents we send to New York City, because we're going to do the job. We're going to do the job without you or with you.
President Trump is readying the U.S. military to carry out mass deportations throughout the nation. We've got the latest on how he plans to carry out those deportations and what it means for our nation going forward. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to celebrate with you the dawning of the new golden age that you made possible on November 5th. So if you don't want to miss a single video analyzing the rise of a new conservative age, both here and abroad, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we dive in here, gang, let me ask you, what do you think you could do if you actually had the same insider trading information that Nancy Pelosi has? Right? You know exactly what I'm talking about here, gang. Politicians like Pelosi have had access to insider trading secrets for decades now. They know exactly what stocks to buy and when to buy them. But guess what? You and I actually have access to that very same inside information. Thanks to a little-known SEC database, we can see what and when corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we get to piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves. Gang, that's why you have got to click on the link below and sign up for a free training with me and my good friend Ross Givens. It's this Thursday, November 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's right here online. Ross is an insider trading expert whose recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%. It's going to be an amazing free training where you and I can learn how to trade with the exact same insider knowledge as these politicians, but legally and ethically. But don't wait. Seating registration is limited, so click on that link below right now and register today, and I'll see you for this online event that promises to be a real game changer. It's being widely reported that DOJ officials are justifiably scared to death of the incoming Trump administration. We're talking top DOJ brass, such as Jack Smith and his team. They're very concerned that they're going to be the targets of mass investigations, prosecutions, and the like by the incoming Trump-aligned Attorney General. Politico is reporting that one unnamed DOJ attorney said this, quote, "Everyone I've talked to, mostly lawyers, are losing their minds. The fear is that career leadership and career employees everywhere are either going to leave or they're going to be driven out. In fact, some are even calling Jack Smith a flight risk. Take a look at what National Security Attorney Mark Zaid is advising DOJ operatives to do.
Counselor, thanks so much for being with us. And this is kind of a little bit of a separate subject, although tangentially related to what Kate was just talking about there. But you are advising clients who are worried about retribution from the incoming Trump administration, revenge. And I was reading an article where you said you were counseling some people to leave the country. Why?
Well, look, Donald Trump and those in his inner circle have been very clear over the period of time, and especially during the campaign, that they do intend to retaliate, and they do intend to retaliate swiftly. They've made those promises. He said that he intends to have his second administration one that fulfills promises. So it would be naive and foolish for us not to take any of this seriously. And we're preparing. Now, I've represented a lot of clients who have been specific targets of President Trump and those around him. We're not just talking about my federal employee workers in different agencies who are uncomfortable, like you've just heard in this last segment. We're talking about people who have been specifically called out by the former president of the United States. And we're not rushing to it. I'm not saying sell your home, move overseas, never come back, become an expat. I'm telling certain clients, a small number, that, you know what, take a vacation for inauguration.
Yeah, that's right. Why don't you, you and the missus take a little vacation, get away, I don't know, for the next 4 years. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. DOJ operatives are literally being advised to flee the country. They know the storm that's about to descend on D.C., and they are absolutely freaking out. DOJ investigators are now coming to the horrific conclusion that they are about to become the objects of investigation. The investigators are about to be investigated, right? The hunters are about to be hunted, as Steve Bannon would put it. And at the very least, it will most likely start with the lowest hanging fruit, which of course is Jack Smith and his entire team. Everyone at the DOJ who worked with him in both of his cases against Trump. Representative Jim Jordan is already setting the stage for congressional participation in those investigations. Obviously, the people behind the Mar-a-Lago raid are going to be investigated. We're talking both throughout the Justice Department as well as the FBI. And of course, such investigations will include the myriad of ways the J6 prisoners were denied due process by a rapidly out of control DOJ and FBI working together to deny them that due process. Julie Kelly's making the argument that Jack Smith alone, who burned through $50 million of taxpayer monies in his 2-year witch hunt of Trump, Jack Smith alone should face an investigation into prosecutorial misconduct, selective prosecution, tampering with evidence, withholding of discovery. And of course, all of that is just the tip of the iceberg. We'll have investigations that literally go all over the FBI for all their alleged corruptions that have pervaded the agency of late. I mean, for example, you may remember the case of Igor Danchenko. Do you remember this? So Danchenko is the dude behind the infamous anti-Trump dossier, the Hillary Clinton dossier, that detailed all kinds of salacious, details about a mythical trip that Trump took to Moscow that supposedly Putin was using as blackmail against him. Okay, that dossier was fabricated. It was a total fraud. Danchenko helped put it together and paid for by Hillary Clinton. And then when Danchenko was put on trial, the first witness called to testify was the FBI agent Brian Audit. And he testified that the FBI offered ex-British intelligence agent Christopher Steele $1 million to corroborate the salacious allegations made in the dossier against President Trump. So according to Auten's testimony, the FBI felt that they had insufficient solid evidence for the FISA warrant to justify spying on the Trump campaign, And so they offered, and this is key, they offered to use our taxpayer monies to pay a foreign spy $1 million for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to deliver slanderous information that would destroy the 2016 campaign of Donald Trump. I mean, this is so much worse than Watergate. Oh, and to make it even worse, the FBI actually signed up Danchenko as a paid informant, what's known as a CHS, a confidential human source, knowing that he would be feeding them lies, the same kind of lies he was feeding Christopher Steele, which the FBI was using as evidence to obtain FISA warrants to spy on Trump and using your tax dollars to pay for it. So the FBI actually they paid Danchenko to continue to feed them Russian disinformation in order to frame the president for colluding with Russia. But that's just a sample of what our FBI has been reduced to over the last several years. So it looks like the day of reckoning is indeed coming for the DOJ and the FBI. And speaking of the day of reckoning, that day is now coming for all of the tens of millions of illegal migrants that are in our nation as we speak. It's now being widely reported that President-elect Trump has indeed confirmed that he will be declaring a national emergency at the southern border on day one of his presidency, which will in turn then justify his use of the military to stop what he would call, of course, the invasion. It's very interesting because it looks like they're going to implement a prioritized process of deportation. So they'll start with the nearly 2 million illegals who've already been sent deportation orders. So they've been informed that they are to leave the nation immediately. So they will be arrested if they are still here. They'll start with them. And then at the same time, they'll also be starting with illegals that are known to be engaged in criminal activities, such as the takeover of apartment complexes in Colorado. Just a half dozen, just a handful. What was it? It was just a handful. And then they'll work down from there. And make no mistake, all the pandering and posturing from woke, progressive, liberal mayors and governors, it ain't gonna make so much as a dent in these plans. Here's former ICE Director Tom Homan. We heard him earlier. This is Trump's new border czar. Here's his response to the ultra-woke Boston mayor claiming that she won't let Trump mass deport illegal immigrants in her city.
Defending our residents every possible way. Well, she's not very smart, I'll give her that. Because what I just said is President Trump's going to prioritize public safety threats. What mayor or governor doesn't want public safety threats out of their communities? I mean, that's her number one responsibility, is to protect her communities. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So she helps us, she gets the hell out of the way, because we're going to do it. And look, there's a clear line here, and they can't cross a clear line. I would suggest she read Title 8, United States Code 1324 III, that says, you can't harbor or conceal an illegal alien in front of law enforcement officers. So I hope she don't cross that line. They can not cooperate, but there are certain laws in place that they can't cross, and I hope she doesn't cross it. But
yeah, any attempt, I mean, he's just so matter of fact. That's what I love about Homan. Any attempt at harboring an illegal alien will be met with the full force of the law. So all of this is just pandering and posturing by a bunch of woke politicians for their depleting woke constituencies. It's not going to amount to squat. Homan also has confirmed that they will be prioritizing relocating 300,000 missing children in our nation today. That's a shocking number, but over 500,000 children have been trafficked into the United States since the bumbling Biden administration released them to unvetted sponsors. And that same bumbling Biden administration can't find over 300,000 of them. And Homan is arguing that some of these children, of course, they're now in forced labor situations. Some have already been found in forced labor. Some are in forced sex trafficking. I mean, this is cry of freedom stuff. So this is all about saving lives in more ways than one. It's about saving hundreds of thousands of kids who've been exploited in the midst of this absurd woke insanity. So what can I say, gang? Butter the popcorn, because we're about to witness an astonishing moment in our nation's history. It's a moment where the people rose up and reminded our leaders of who's really in charge of this nation. It is we, the people. We are in charge. They are accountable to us. And that accountability is about to be served.